Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining on this sunny, I hope for you, day. It's a little bit cold where I am, but it's still middle of June. So cool to see actually many faces. Today, I think we will have another very interesting discussion and very interesting talk. Today, we have Nelson, who works in, oh my God, if I remember the how to pronounce it correctly, the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. Um, and we have been planning this for quite a long time. I think the first time we spoke with you was more than a month ago. So I've been waiting for that for quite a long time. And without further anything, we will have time in the end for questions, I think. So the plan is to have roughly 45 minutes of Nelson talking, and then we'll have the rest for questions. And we have roughly an hour. So having said that, I think you can kick it off. And you are not presenting anything so far. I hope you fix that.
Can you see my screen?
Not yet. Yes, now we can.
Cool. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Nelson, and as Misha described, I am currently the lead and coordinator for human-centered design at the International Federation of the Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. Just a short, brief introduction of the IFRC in short. IFRC is the secretariat of about 191 national societies, registered national societies across the globe. And we coordinate a lot of the activities across these national societies and support them during disaster response and supporting them in various ways. Although for us to know is that national societies operate as independent institutions. So the IFRC just plays as a secretariat role, supporting and guiding wherever the national society needs needs help. I've been in this role for about 11 months, but I'm not new to design. I will walk you through my journey, and this talk has been an introspection for me with how I've been thinking about design. So I'm glad I got the opportunity to self-reflect as I prepared for this session. So I'll blabber for about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and then I'll open the floor up for discussion. So my journey as a human-centered designer began quite a number of years, more than a decade ago. And my design journey began as an interior designer. So that is what my undergraduate studies focused on. So if I lose a job, I'll be designing kitchens and living rooms. But I do enjoy that. But I got triggered at a point where we were with this organization, and the question was what design can do. And it was quite an eye-opener for me that you can actually apply design beyond designing spaces and experiences. You can actually help solve problems using design. And I think that has been the journey for most of us designers. But a pivotal moment was, as you see in this photo, one of these studies that I was doing earlier on led me to a health facility in the western part of Kenya, and the project was on improving the motivation of healthcare frontline healthcare providers in immunization, uh, with the scope being limited to simple solutions. And I sat in this waiting area of a health facility, and there was a black bicycle that was still wrapped and was dusty. And I looked at the nurse who of course, was not using the bicycle. And I simply asked, what is this bicycle doing here? Because it is not something that I would expect inside of a healthcare facility, in an office. And she said, and I captured that verbatim, sometimes we're given things that we don't need. And that struck me to the core. And it kind of like shifted my mind, from at that point, I was just doing the design process, right? I was just like, you begin with empathize, you go through the the entire design process, and it shifted something in me. I started thinking about, how can we improve how other people see our users, how organizations, how institutions, how governments engage with end users. The bicycle was there because there was a program at the local government where they were incentivizing healthcare providers, and they provided this bicycle. Was this lady, healthcare nurse in her 50s, going to use a bicycle? No. Was the intention good? Yes. And clearly there was a mismatch. So my journey started earlier on, through my campus days. And I'll walk you through what I thought at that point design was, and my reflection of what I actually did or what transpired during my journey at that point. So earlier on, I was supporting a campus community, and it was called a journey. And here we were doing a lot of facilitation, running workshops for different kinds, doing leadership training, behavior change conversations. And at that point, it was very mechanical, right? I was doing something and I thought I was doing really good. But then looking at this years down the line, maybe I had it wrong, right? What was really important at that point was designing conditions for learning. The space, the environment, the people, how learners interact with content, and we were very good at it. So that was my first and kind of like realization in terms of the first step. As I continued through on, we established a living lab. I think you probably know the living lab approach. And at this time, I was working on projects that were in informal settlements. At that time, we were looking at the nexus between energy and health, and how households, energy providers, different energy providers were interacting, and some of the health outcomes. At this time, I looked at it as community engagement, right? Like, going down to the community, learning with them. But now that I look at it, I'm looking at it as design as influence, understanding how people interact with problems. As we were doing that, as we do all these sessions, we neatly pack all these findings that we get, insights that we get, into very neat clusters of, and it's really good. However, now looking back, understanding how people interact with problems and how they solve them is actually much more important than forming neat little insights. I moved on to an organization known as PATH. And here we were doing a lot of innovation. So, of course, using the innovation sprints, setting up the living lab environment. We built a space, a modular space that could transform into anything. And this is where I really dove into health and health systems a lot. And here, just because of the notion around coming up with new ideas, we were really focused on generating ideas, and that's like one of the processes, steps that we go through during design. And as we quickly learned, or as I quickly learned, the challenge was not coming up with ideas. It was how to move these ideas into systems. In fact, we published a number of papers, a number of booklets highlighting all these particular solutions. But what we hadn't anticipated was how these solutions would would be embedded or be absorbed by health systems. And that was a very big realization for me. So we're not just, developing ideas for the sake of coming up with it, but we need to think of how these ideas would move into systems. I moved on to the International Committee of the Red Cross. So the difference between the ICRC and IFRC, if you might, is ICRC, International Committee of the Red Cross, Red Crescent, focuses on international armed conflict. So this is where you have clashes between or across borders. While as national societies operate within the framework of their political or geographical boundaries. Here we were focused. I was charged with building a design team, and intentionally what we are going to do is work on products and processes within the organization to support all the functions that digital tools were going to support. And we drilled down, we did all these things, but then later on looking at some of the tensions that did come up, as I will talk about it later, I came to the realization that design is not just about designing these products and services, good UIs, good workflows or process flows. Design was actually more about helping non-designers embrace design. So at some point, some of my colleagues looked at me and were like, we were just reflecting on my time there. And I think 50% of my time was talking to non-designers about design. No one literally, it's very unquantifiable, right? If you do your performance review, you're not gonna list conversations about design with non-designers at all levels, leadership level, colleagues, different departments. And this was quite a learning point for me. And then finally, at IFRC, I'm beginning to look at design as strategy. And here we're looking at design leadership at a global scale. You have a number of institutions, national societies looking up, some of them practicing design, some not, and even the application of design is different. And also internally in the organization, we're looking at the application of design, not just on products, but shaping organizational decisions. So this trajectory has moved from, just starting design practice sessions, doing the work, and now being part of leadership in terms of informing or providing support for informed decisions through human-centered design. Just to give a thought or to learn this, one of the questions we've been asking different people is if today, right now, we have the luxury of sitting on this call, but if today you and your loved one suddenly found yourself in a disaster, what would your most urgent need be, and how would the Red Cross assist you? So this is the kinds of conversations that we are beginning to have at the leadership level. So it's not just about how a product looks like or UI. Those are still very important facets, but to get the ship, for lack of a better word, to turn, we are beginning to have these conversations with higher level stakeholders. However, this has not been easy for me and with my colleagues. I found myself uh, at the onset of setting up design practices across different organizations, and I put together some of the tensions that have I've come across, and especially now in a humanitarian setting. So I call them design tensions. So the first one is on speed and participation. For some reason, non-designers, when they think about design or when we walk them through design, they will feel or they have this picture that it takes time. Design takes time, right? It's just like, am I gonna do like a 2-week sprint? Am I gonna pause everything and then allow you to come in and then do your design work? And then you're met with this context where there's urgency, there's speed to support. For instance, right now there's a lot of support going to the DRC because of Ebola, and we would want to have this engagement with nationals, with locals, with the national society to understand some of their needs. However, I don't think anyone is going to pause for us, right, to do this work, because Ebola, I mean, it's a real, active, life-threatening context. So the question that we now begin to ask is how much participation is enough when time is limited, or when resources are limited, or where contexts are constrained. So, for instance, because of the nature of the response, not everyone would be allowed to go to the national society. You have a national society that perhaps may have very low connectivity, so even virtual engagements could be potentially limited. So how do you apply human-centered design in this context? So these are some of the mind-boggling tensions that that we keep going through every day. The next one is on innovation and accountability, or versus accountability. In a humanitarian environment, the principle of do no harm is rife. However, sometimes when you go through these design processes, there is the notion that that we want to learn fast through experimentation, prototype testing, etc. How do we do this with people seeking assistance who are quite vulnerable because some of the products are geared for them? How do you work with national society colleagues to be able to deliver the best or to learn about processes or tools that that are meant to support them, but at the same time knowing that if there is a risk, it actually harms a human being. Like, it outrightly would bar you from receiving the care support, or it might actually paint or create a negative image about the Red Cross or Red Crescent. So these are some of the. This is one of the tensions that I'm navigating at the point at this point in some of the contexts. I've learned a few things. For instance, we are more we are beginning to test in more stable environments. We are beginning to set up a national society sounding board where we have a pool of national societies that would be ready and willing to test some of our solutions or some of the solutions that we have. And then also internally, how do we not prevent the disruption of processes, of critical processes or critical workflows through design? So that's, through learning and design, people are busy. one of the learnings I had when I was excited, back then when I was very excited and young, I believed I was a superstar, the guy who's come to solve all the problems of organization. And then understanding how people perceived me quite really literally humbled me. So it's like, are you the designer? And design in some of this context is not limited to human-centered design. It is actually limited, to a graphic designer, their first interaction with, what design is. And so it becomes very difficult to engage with this kind of mindset, especially where we need their participation and their buy-in. The other tension that I have is on evidence versus intuition. Organizations trust metrics, like hard metrics. How many people were we able to support day in, day out? And we have all these dashboards. We are very, and I think you work in these environments as well. Like, whereas in design, we also trust the observations that we make, right? And sometimes some of these observations are very difficult to quantify. And the question here is, how do we show the business value of design? I made a presentation on this 2 years ago, and it was quite interesting to have leadership buy into this. How do we communicate qualitative insights and pair them with quantitative evidence, so that remember, we're trying to influence decision makers. How do you get them to make informed choices? This is a tension that I've lived with as long as I've practiced design. It's the tension of understanding what and being able to observe sometimes firsthand what people need, what human needs, especially in hard to reach areas. And sometimes when you go there, when you're doing all these studies and you look at this dire context and you want to leave your money, like you want to empty your bank account and give them everything, including the clothes, the shoes that you have, because of the what you're seeing them go through. And you identify with the actual need that you have, you're engaging with them, but the organization that you're working for does not have the resources to meet these needs, either in terms of scope or in terms of resources. They're just not able to do this. And internally, sometimes it begs the question is like, did we have to engage with them? Because ethically, what we are almost promising them that we'll be able to solve some of these issues that they are facing, and then finding out that you cannot. So how do we handle this helplessness? How do you apply good design within real world constraints? So my mind has shifted over time with learning about this. So one of the things that changed is moving beyond human-centered design and project support to design as an organization capacity. This is a critical phase in as you start or participate in organizations that whose design maturity is really low, or where their design capacity is only limited to project support in any way, or maybe limited to, or maybe confined at a lower level in terms of influence. This is critical because if an organization understands the value of design, the more likely they are to make human-centered design informed decisions. but that doesn't come easily. We need to work beyond producing the artifacts that we come up with into informing the strategic directions or leadership level information that would make, for example, a director change their mind or about a decision. At some point, I was I was keen on building design teams, and design teams are great, but design teams also suffer unfortunately as the first batch of people when resources are constrained. I've gone through this a lot. Cedric, you're smiling. I've gone through this a lot, where for instance, when when there's just lack of resources, they look at the design team, and it's like we are very easily let go. And I've seen this across multiple organizations, even within the Red Cross, Red Crescent movement. We've had surges in designers, and then the next year, we've lost about 50% of these designers. And other teams remained the same. So we are perceived as this very, this team more often of young people who dress and talk differently and are very excited, and are perceived as that an organization can actually do without design, and that's the communication that it does. To now, I'm trying to figure out how do you build more human-centered organizations. So this is trying to embed the fabric of what human-centeredness is to the organization. And some of the ways that we've been able to, or have been able to ensure this is embedded, is to look at some of their processes and include or decentralize the design process, so that you have design where you need, and then kind of like step back when you're not necessarily needed. So it is also not seen as a very again, the perception of that it takes time. So for instance, like using the lean UX approach in your intake process for any solution, right? Like it's a very light way of ensuring that your that solutions actually go through the design process without having to call it the design process. Another way that we've been able to look at this is also defining what other activities would benefit more from an understanding of who we are trying to serve. So for instance, if we're working with people seeking assistance, how do you present this information to product managers, program coordinators, in a way that informs them to make the right design decision. So we've built all this, personas across the organization, and we are ensuring that they're up to date and that anyone can interact with them. We're trying to build user pools that allow teams to engage much more easily with them, and then we're also decentralizing the, as I mentioned before, the design process. This one was hard for me in terms of changing my mind, because I always thought that the goal of design is to come up with the best solution, but over time, I'm moving towards designing for complexity. In the humanitarian sector, for instance, solutions need to be context aware. For example, in a response, there are myriad of other things that are going around. You have your person that is needing support. You have the volunteer that is providing or trying to provide the support. You have the national society that is also overlaying over the volunteer, and then you have the federation, and you have other organizations that are also coming in. So your solution needs to be able to absorb and adapt to all these changing complexities over time. We've seen really, really good solutions fail, and they've been expensive failures. And now we're beginning to I think with my arrival, we're beginning to question, some of these observations that we've been able to make over time. So, for example, the disuse of solutions, the feelings around ownership of some of the digital tools, for instance, the participation of national societies in the development of solutions. So these have been quite steep learnings for us. So the best solution may not necessarily be the solution that needs to be in place. However, we need to ensure that these solutions that we're coming up with adapt to complexity. I began this by sharing my story about the bicycle and the healthcare provider, and empathy for me was like the heart of design. But as I've gone across organization, it's moving not just from empathy to influence. How can we use design to influence strategy, policy, funding priorities, product decisions, and so on and so forth? How can design be the voice that allows our leadership to make the informed decision? We know what our users need. How do we get organizations to move towards what these users actually do need? It's not been easy, I'd say. However, it's also been quite liberating when an organization starts to move towards this direction. When, for instance, I'm setting up this market research engagement, trying to understand what our national societies need, and then matching them against what our support has been. The goal here is to influence the strategy that the IFRC has towards providing digital support to national societies. So for me, that is a win, right? Like, I would be, I'd be very grateful for our product teams, for instance, to be more human-centered. Compared to me fighting to have 10 other designers, right? Because I know when the when the budget cuts come, they're gonna come for the designers, and at that point you lose you lose the human centeredness of the organization. So how do we build in? So that has been my part. That is actually one of my to-dos at the moment, is to build capacity across the organization, across different levels, so that it's not just a way of doing, but it's also a way of thinking, that is processed through the leadership. Yeah, I'll pause there and see if there's questions about anything that I have talked about.
I think people might not be sure how much content you have left, because we do have
No content.
time
No
allocated
content
to that.
left.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
As usual, I have a couple, but I'm not going to start yet. Please,
Yeah, go ahead.
please do. No,
Yeah.
no, no, no. Please do.
I have one. I think, I mean, thank you for the presentation. It's very interesting to see the evolution towards more strategic and more also leadership and how you navigate that within the organization. I have, I think, a similar journey. And I'm wondering, because you are working for the IFRC, which is a federation, are you able to find allies? So people who understand where it's designed, who can bring that conversation on the decision level, I mean, at any level, basically, but are you able to find those allies that are also part of the movement? May
Yes.
that be IFRC or ICRC or others?
Yeah, so I've established a design community of practice in the Red Cross Red Crescent movement. At the moment, we have about 10 designers actively participating and are part of national societies and the ICRC. I know there's some that I have not reached yet, like the American Red Cross. I have connections with them, but I've not invited them. So this ally is also built towards the shared practice. So one of our goals is to publish a kit for national societies to be able to adopt human-centered design. Knowing that they may well not be able to have the resources to employ human-centered design, but also just to capacity build like high-level leadership on how they can move towards being more human-centered design. So yeah, Cedric, we have a growing community, a growing and shrinking, growing and shrinking community of designers. Yeah. Yes, absolutely. From yes, from French Red Cross. Yeah. Yeah. How, yes, maybe one of the sessions, maybe later on in the year, after summer, we could
Hmm.
we could bring them on. I'm just looking at my channel, the channel that we currently have, and yeah, we're at 13. So it keeps growing as we find each other. Again, it's also been like a journey of trying to know who's doing what, where, what levels. Again, they're also like at different levels. Some are again still at project based or project support level, and others are in teams that have been poised very well across the movement, like the Netherlands Red Cross 510 team that has dedicated resources in their digital support models. Yeah, so it's a growing community. We keep finding each other, and it's also been a place for us to rally ourselves together. We had quite some really good ambitions last year, but then half of the with Trump coming in and the funding cuts, again, like I mentioned, we lost a good number of designers. So we've had to regroup again. And that happens when design is not, when the organization is not human-centered. Yeah. So it becomes very easy to cut. Yeah.
This was somewhat a good segue to my question. Thank you, by the way, so much for the presentation. So, as Cedric has said, we did have Milan from the French Red Cross not that long ago.
Mhm.
And Milan actually went quite deep into the type of projects that they do and the type of initiatives that they do. And I think people here might be familiar with what Red Cross does, but could you maybe give a couple examples of like what type of projects and what type of the initiatives you take part in the IFRC? And if you can, I know that every national society is different. I know that it's very much not universal, but maybe you could reflect on the difference between the stuff that you do and the stuff that they do, for example, in the innovation or design teams in the actual Red Cross societies.
Okay, so I'll give an example. So the Netherlands Red Cross is a team called 510. So they run their specialty is in supporting digital products for national societies that enable delivery of assistance. So whether it is cash assistance, for example, they have a platform called the One-to-One platform that allows national societies be able to easily transfer funds from transfer cash to beneficiaries digitally through connecting a national society to a financial service provider. And so we support them with the UI development, we support the product team just the way a product team would work, and you have a designer looking at the UI, the experience, the workflows, etc. Then you have other design teams like the British Red Cross design team that also focus on internal tools and internal processes. So, for example, the development of the enterprise resource planning platforms to processes, workflows in logistics, supply chain, etc. So we're looking at digital tools internally and also support models towards people seeking assistance. How can that be improved at service centers, for example, or distribution centers, looking at how beneficiaries flow in and how they get the support, how they flow out, looking at the blockers. And then we have the federation. So I support a number of things. I support the development of digital tools internally. So our ERP systems, for instance, our various other internal tools that we use on a day-to-day basis that allow us to work and operate fully. So there it is both process and product support. So UI, UX support, but at the same time, I'm also supporting the National Society facing solutions. So these are solutions that we have towards that we provide towards beneficiaries. So for example, if you go to Google Play right now, there is a product called AccessRC. So AccessRC is a tool that allows beneficiaries to self-register, and it matches beneficiaries to services in their national society. One of the projects that I'm supporting is called the Integrated Assistance Platform. That what we are hoping to seek to do is to provide dignified assistance. Over time, when we looked at the support that we've been providing, it has always been fragmented. So, for instance, if you want cash, there's a product that is just doing cash for you. If you want food items, there is a no product, or it's a paper-based product. So again, it's just like you have to register again to get another service. So it's not dignified in the sense that when you look at the user that you're trying to support, the motivation to comply with your process is because it literally stands between them and suffering, right? Like, so they will do whatever you ask them to do. So what we are hoping to do is to provide dignified support. So for instance, for migrants who face, I think, some of the greatest challenges, as they move across borders, they're moving across national societies. As they move across these national societies, the processes are very dissimilar. And how can we improve that process so that, for instance, you are not requiring to register again as you move across boundaries, and you're able to provide maybe like a way to verify yourself and get the support that you need. And then also be able to identify unique needs within, for example, like a family, right? You might have larger families or families with special needs, so on and so forth. So being able to do that. So one way we're trying to do that is through like the development of IFRC. I think of IFRC as like Uber, right? Like when you move from one country to another, you don't have to do the registration process again. You just continue receiving the service as long as you're mapped to the national society. So dignified assistance is one of the projects that I'm working on. With national society facing solutions. We are also working in partnership with different national societies, so we are not just isolated. So for example, the team that I described, the Netherlands Red Cross 510 team, like we are in weekly calls, we are in daily calls with them. So we are partnering a lot because again, our support is not differing. Our goals are the same, and users do not differentiate between the different emblems. They just see, for instance, the Red Cross. So how can we provide more dignified or supportive assistance to national societies? The other thing that another project that I'm also working on is on building the capacity of national societies to be able to identify their gaps and communicate them competitively. So this is to say that through design, how can we build national societies to be able to say that this product that you're giving us is not the right one, right? We need this one. These are the areas that we need more support from the Federation, from partner national societies, and even from other donors as well. The other thing that I'm also doing is building cross or peer-to-peer support. There's some national societies that are doing extremely well, right, and can be able to support other national societies. So how do you build these networks across the movement? Because peer influence is a really big influence, right? Like, and even across national societies, if we see them if they see another national society using a particular product or service, or using a type of process, they're more likely to adopt that and learn from them, as opposed to someone coming to give them something extremely new. So that's one of the ways that we're looking at building ownership. And then I think I may have mentioned this earlier. So one of my goals this year is to conduct a market research across at least 50 national societies to identify where the gaps are, not just for the sake of knowing where these gaps are, but to be able to introspectively look at the support that our leadership has been giving national societies. Are there glaring gaps that we have been missing? Is what we are providing only being used by a very small percentage of national societies? Giving us that signal of maybe we need to change our strategy in terms of, for instance, digital support to national societies. So that's what I'm celebrating. Like, you have this opportunity to practice design, but then also influence the organization strategy.
So you guys kind of both at the same time, the strategic bird's eye view on everything, and you connect other societies. But on the other hand, you're kind of like a tactical team that comes and helps with different projects when needed.
Yes, when needed. Yeah.
Thank you. I accidentally asked a 10-minute question. I think we might have time for one or two more. No, it was a great answer. Thank you, and great context too.
Hello. Do you have time for a quick two-part question, Nelson?
Yes, I have the whole evening today.
Oh, okay. Nice. Good
Yeah.
to meet you, and thank you for sharing all the knowledge. I appreciate it. I've been taking notes the whole time. But what I want to ask, I focus more on the ground tools. So I'm wondering, I'm sitting here thinking the IFRC is massive, right? As far as an organization, but human-centered design is hyper local, you know? So how do you build tools that are structured enough to scale on a, globally, but flexible enough for local volunteers to adapt to whatever unique culture they're working in?
Yeah, very, very good question, Kellen, and I regret why I removed that slide. I was thinking about my time. Yeah, so that's one of the tensions that we have, global scale versus localization.
Mhm.
So some of the things that we're trying to build the most basic version of the most basic tools that support the common support models that national societies have. So when you look at how national societies operate, there is a common pattern. For example, we start with preparedness, when we are engaging with the community. Then there is response, the actual, delivery of support, and then there's the recovery, bringing back people to where they were from. So when you look at the activities of a national society, you can almost box them towards these four activities. If you drill down, there are very basic activities that do happen. So, for example, in all national societies, you have the activity on beneficiary registration, where you have your volunteers go out and collect information. So I'll just use that as an example. So over time, what we've learned is they've been using, for example, Kobo, and this is a very widely used data collection tool. So what we have been doing is just integrating Kobo into our system. So the volunteers don't have to change anything, right, in terms of what they're doing. So they still maintain their practice. The National Society can still, they've already learned how to build and, come up with these questions and surveys. And then we're just integrating them into our tools. So for example, with the one-to-one platform, we just have that integration, and once the data has been collected by your volunteer, it automatically is reflected. So some sections remain the same. So we maintain the same behavior, we maintain the same patterns, if not improve them. So for instance, what we're also learning is that across multiple national societies, the beneficiary registration process is almost standardized, right? You have the same questions, same length, etc. So how can we already preclude this in some of our digital tools? Some of our tools are becoming multilingual, so that our different countries and different languages are able to engage, including some local languages that would be available. So I think, like in our Access RC, we have more than 20 languages. So again, this is allowing more people to be able to use the same tool over and over again. But essentially what we're trying to do is to find the most common processes and focus on that, then allow for national societies to be able to do so. For example, once they've already collected their data, whatever other tool that they wish to create is is upon them, and so it builds their capacity. But then if we were to look at the most fundamental layers, that stays the same. The other thing is also we it's something that we're trying hard not to do, but over time these digital tools they're becoming really heavy and are requiring more advanced devices. So we are sometimes not like updating too much. Like we are trying to like keep our solutions to the most basic level, because again, we are struggling with a lot: connectivity, access to devices, so on and so forth. It's not a walk in the park. It's very, very difficult, especially when we think of scale. And then the other thing that we're also trying to do is to allow interoperability across multiple platforms. Some, again, I think you captured it correctly. Some national societies have multiple tools, and they just need something. So how can we open up some of this? Some national societies are also now looking into open source platforms, so building and supporting. So that's also another way that we are looking at. So that, again, if it works for a number of national societies, it stays the same. We're also offering multiple platforms for the same service. So yeah, so for instance, in the South America, we have one, the access is very common, but in Africa, one-to-one is the most common. So just being able to provide different options for different contexts. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that response. And you answered my second question. So thank you.
We did start a couple minutes later, so if anybody has a burning question, I'll allow one. Or maybe not. I think we're good in that case. I actually do have a couple things that I'm going to ask you, but I will do that afterwards, I think, to not take everybody's time. This was fun, as I promised, and you are a great presenter, which makes sense since you're building design teams, which is kind of part of your job. I think everybody appreciates that perspective, and it's also super interesting to see the strategic kind of bird's eye view on that part. So as usual, we will post this to YouTube, so everybody will be able to watch it, and everybody who watches it can also join the Slack, ask Nelson any other questions that you might wanna, and don't be a stranger. And having said that, thank you everyone for coming, and see you in maybe 4 weeks.
And
Thank
yeah,
you.
I would
Thank
like
you.
to add one short thing, because I also really liked on your slide the fact that you have this reflection on speed versus participation and all of that. And I'm also saying that because Thomas, you did present your work a few weeks ago, and Kellen, we had the chance to talk also a few weeks ago. So I wanted to share the idea that on our website, we do have a blog. And if you do want to write articles, you're gladly invited to share your insights from your work, ideas that you would like to share. I mean, we are happy to. The website is a place to promote the community, and so if the community is willing to write, we are of course happy to share.
That's a good idea. Thank you, Cedric. Yeah.
That sounds great. Thank you, Cedric.
Thank
Thanks,
you very much.
everyone.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you.
very much.
Bye.